And Leslie Rutledge standing side by side with the president during a meeting with attorney generals from across the country. Now, after the speech, she took to Twitter saying, quote, "The president is unifying the country and putting Americans back to work. One of the best speeches I've heard a president give to a joint session." 4029 also speaking with Representative Bruce Westerman after the address. Here's what he had to say.
I think he hit on the things that we've been talking about as House Republicans way before the election, and it's nice to have a president in the Oval Office who will sign the bills that we're going to push out through the House and the Senate.
Well, 4029 did reach out to the Democratic Party of Arkansas for comment on the president's speech. So far, though, we have not.
This morning, President Trump addressed a joint session of Congress last night. The president's speech was much more traditional and on script than some of his free-flowing ones. The campaign and his first month in office. Mr. Trump did continue to call for building a border wall as well as repealing and replacing Obamacare.
Mandating every American to buy government-approved health insurance was never the right solution for our country. The way to make health insurance available to everyone is to lower the cost of health insurance, and that is what we are going to do.
The president says a replacement health care plan must include insuring Americans with pre-existing conditions and giving governors flexibility on Medicaid. Congressman Bruce Westerman joins us now live from Washington. He represents Arkansas's 4th District.
All right, sir, thanks for being here. Let's start with health care. Republicans and the president want to repeal Obamacare, but we haven't seen specifics just yet. What would you like to see in a new plan to make things better?
Yeah, well, first off, I would like to say my thoughts and prayers are with people there with the severe weather. I know it's storming quite a bit back home, and you know, I was impressed last night with President Trump's speech. I thought he did a great job. The book of Proverbs tells us that where there's no vision, the people perish, and I think he laid out a vision for the country and a big picture and a challenge to us. And one of the things he said in his speech was that there's no problem too big for us to solve. And healthcare is one of those issues, and I think we're going to solve it. It's going to be much better for the American people after we repeal it and after we fix the problems that are there with health care. He laid out some of those fixes last night in his speech. He talked about buying insurance across state lines. He talked about giving people options on buying the health care insurance that they need, and really the government out from between doctors and patients. And those are the things that we've been working on, not just since President Trump's been elected, but for several years. Republicans have been looking at that. There are a lot of great ideas, and we're going through the debate and the process on how to implement those.
Ask you about one of the big moments from last night when the president recognized the widow of William Ryan Owens, the Navy SEAL killed in Yemen. You could feel the emotion through the TV, but what was that like live in person?
Oh, it was extremely powerful. I kept looking up at her, and you could just see on her face and the pain she was obviously feeling. But it was great, I think, that we took that much time and recognized her and her family's sacrifice and her husband's sacrifice. And it was one of the most powerful moments of the whole speech last night. But I thought it was great how the president mixed in real-life stories with some really well thought out policy positions, and I love the way he prepared and stuck to the script, and I think really spoke to the hearts of the American people.
I want to ask you one more, Congressman. The president said last night the time for small thinking is over and the time for trivial fights is behind us. We didn't hear anything about fake news. We didn't hear crooked Hillary. He stayed on message for the most part. Do you think the president's about to change the way he operates, or do you think last night was an exception?
I'm not sure what last night was, but I know I liked last night, and I could use more of that. And we do have big problems to solve, and a lot of those problems lie on Congress to solve them. He gave us a vision and a challenge, and I'm ready to get to work and start solving those problems, and I hope that we will all work together and put the best interest of the country first.
All right, Congressman Bruce Westerman, thank you. We're going to have to leave it here, but thank you for joining us this morning and providing us with your insight on last night's address.
Great.
While we may be a nation divided on policies, We are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms.
Well, President Trump is still preparing his executive order on travel and immigration this morning, one day after issuing his first address to a joint session of Congress. The president laid out his legislative goals last night, striking a far more optimistic tone. Governor Asa Hutchinson tweeted, quote, "Very encouraging to hear a unifying message filled with hope." We also caught up with Senator John Bozeman moments after the president's speech.
I thought the president did a great job about talking about unity and hope, strength. Talked a lot to the American worker, outlined a plan about jobs, jobs, jobs. The concerns that the American worker has in regard to...
Congressman Bruce Westerman, who took over now Senator Tom Cotton's district, representing Hope, Hot Springs, and Pine Bluff, also weighing in on the president's address last night, and he is joining us live from Washington, D.C. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Good morning. It's great to be with you. I hear there's some severe weather down there. My thoughts and prayers are with everybody back home, but it's great to be here this morning. I thought a fantastic speech last night. The president laid out a big, bold vision for the country, and I was very impressed with what he had to say.
Last night's speech.
Yeah, I thought his speech, again, it hit on the big issues. I think it challenged Congress to get to work, whether it's health care, taxes, national security. He outlined the big major points that we've been talking about in the House for quite some time, and it's great that we've got a president there that's pushing the same agenda. So I'm excited about getting to work with my colleagues and accomplishing some of these tasks. And the president said last night that there's no problem too big for us to solve. I firmly believe that, and I'm excited about working on these issues.
I want to talk to you too about the most tweeted about moment last night was when he honored the widow of Navy SEAL Ryan Owens, who died in the president's first authorized military operation last month.
Yeah, that was extremely powerful, and the applause went on, and it was, you know, I was looking up from the floor at Ryan's widow in the gallery, and you know, it was hard for me to look at her because it was gut-wrenching to think about what she's been through and the sacrifices that her and her family and her husband made for our country, the ultimate sacrifice. And the president even talked about how there's greater love has no man than this, that he lays down his life for his country. And I think that's a message to Congress that you know, we've got to have that same attitude. This is about our country. We've got to work together, and we've got to get these big vision ideas and this policy put in place because that's what's best for America. We've got to lay down our lives to help everyone else.
On both sides of the aisle, people are saying this was a very positive speech. Do you think the president will continue this tone throughout the rest of his speeches he makes to America?
I sure hope so. I like the idea that he had it prepared, he stuck to the script, and he really hit on the important ideas. So I think if he continues to deliver speeches like this, to keep that demeanor, that the country can come together and we can work, and Congress can come together and we can work hard to achieve those common objectives that he laid out last night. So I was impressed, and I hope he continues to operate that way.
Thank you, Congressman Bruce Westerman, joining us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time and the well wishes back here in Arkansas for these